Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Roman Reigns made a massive offer to a star so that he would work with him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and he was fired from the company soon after. On the Cafe de Renee podcast, former WWE writer Jimmy Jacobs discussed his time working in WWE, where he was involved in two storylines, Kevin Owens facing Shane McMahon, and John Cena facing Roman Reigns. He said that after the story with Cena and Reigns, Roman came up to him and told him to be his writer going forward. He was going to get that chance, but at the same time, Vince McMahon did not recognize what he brought to the table. "I had a difficult time working for Vince. I just wanted to be able to play. I didn't get fired because I was bad at my job. The last two things I was working on SmackDown, it was Kevin Owens vs. Shane McMahon, and on Raw, it was John Cena and Roman Reigns. After that John Cena and Roman Reigns story, Roman came up to me and wanted me to be his writer moving forward. You know what I mean?" 44-24 to 44-54. Jacobs went on to say that he resented Vince McMahon for not recognizing the value he brought to the company, and as a result, he ended up acting out. He got fired, and when he was fired, he was relieved that it had happened. "I didn't get fired because I was bad at my job, and there's a part of me that kind of resented Vince for not seeing it, maybe. He thought I was just a weirdo, and I think the other people around me saw my value, and kind of he didn't, and so I acted out like a child, and I got fired, and when I got fired, I was relieved." 44-59 to 45-20. Jacobs moved on and continued his wrestling career, but his time as a writer remains a big what could have been for WWE. It was meant to be the biggest break of his life. For months, whispers backstage at WWE shows hinted at Roman Reigns having a plan bigger than the bloodline, a plan to expand his island of relevancy beyond family ties, to weave new threads into the most dominant storyline wrestling has seen in years. For one rising star, it almost became reality, until it was ripped away overnight. The dream offer. It started late one night after SmackDown went off the air. The locker room was emptying out when Roman Reigns, still in his black needle mover shirt, spotted the young star, a powerhouse from NXT who had been grinding dark matches for weeks, catching the eye of fans and agents alike with his sheer presence. His name was Damon King, real name, Damon Kincaid, a 6'4", 250-pound bruiser with an amateur wrestling background and a natural swagger that reminded some of a young Roman himself. Damon had just finished showering when Reigns called him over. It was the kind of moment young wrestlers dream about but never believe will happen. "Sit," Reigns said, pointing to a folding chair across from him. Damon sat. His heart was pounding in his chest so loud he was sure Reigns could hear it. "You hungry?" Reigns asked. "A little," Damon said. Reigns tossed him an energy bar from his bag. "Small talk. A test. You've been watching us, huh?" Reigns continued, leaning forward, his voice low, serious. "You see what we're building?" "Yes, sir," Damon said. "The bloodline. It's the biggest thing going." Reigns smirked. "It is. But it ain't finished. Not even close." The proposal. The tribal chief told Damon that he wanted to expand the bloodline's influence, but not just with family. He wanted muscle. An enforcer. A new generation of dominance that didn't rely only on blood, but on loyalty. "You've got the look," Reigns said. "You've got the attitude. You're hungry. I see it." Damon nodded, afraid to speak too much. Reigns studied him for a moment, then leaned back. "I'll talk to Heyman," he said. "You come ride with us for a loop. Learn. Travel. If you prove you can listen, you're in. I'll make sure you're on TV in 3 months." Damon didn't know whether to shout or cry. It was everything, a direct path to the main roster, to pay-per-view events, to standing beside Reigns in main events while others spent years chasing that same spotlight. "Don't screw it up," Reigns said, standing. "We'll talk more next week." The silent week. Damon didn't sleep for days. He trained harder than ever, every session in the Performance Center replaying Reigns' words in his mind. He pictured himself in the ring next to Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, and Reigns, a new powerhouse to protect the head of the table. When the next SmackDown came around, Damon flew himself out at his own expense. He wasn't booked but he didn't care, he wanted to be there, to prove his commitment. He even brought fresh gear, just in case. Backstage, he spotted Heyman. The wise man gave him a nod, that sly grin curling under his salt and pepper beard. "You spoke to Roman?" Heyman said, voice silky. "Yes, sir. I'm ready." Heyman patted him on the shoulder. "Stay ready." It was happening. The call. But 3 days later, the email hit his phone at 3 a.m., one of those cold, corporate messages that never says too much. WWE has come to terms on the release of Damon Kincaid, Damon King. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. No explanation. No phone call. No second chance. Damon called every number he had, his coach, his agent, even Reigns himself. Voicemails, silence. He texted Heyman, who read the message but never responded. Overnight, his dream turned to ashes. The revelation. A few weeks later, Damon did what no one expected, he went public. He sat down for an independent wrestling podcast, his voice raw but calm, and told the whole story. "Roman Reigns made me an offer," Damon said, looking straight into the camera. "He wanted me as his new enforcer. He told me I was gonna be part of the bloodline. I didn't ask for it, he came to me. And I believed him." The podcast host asked the question everyone was thinking, what happened? Damon shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe someone higher up didn't like the idea. Maybe I pissed off the wrong coach. Maybe someone saw me as a threat. Or maybe they're just cleaning house. But one thing I know, Roman wanted me there. And I would have bled for that spot." The fallout. Fans lost their minds. Social media lit up, #JusticeForDamon trended for 2 days. Clips of Damon's old matches racked up thousands of views overnight. Some wrestlers tweeted their support, hinting at politics, at invisible hands pulling strings behind the scenes. But Reigns stayed silent. No statement, no denial, no confirmation. Heyman said nothing. WWE issued the same generic response when asked for comment. The next chapter. But wrestling never stops moving. Damon, released but not broken, turned his heartbreak into fuel. Within weeks, he was announced for a marquee indie show in Chicago. The promoter knew exactly what he was doing, the posters read, "Damon King, the enforcer WHO never was." In the ring, Damon was a beast unleashed. Fans chanted Bloodline Reject not to mock him, but to rally behind him. He powerbombed his opponent through a table and stood over him, arms wide, daring the world to doubt him again. Backstage, he told the other wrestlers he wasn't bitter. "Roman saw something in me," he said. "That's real enough. They can't take that away." The tribal chief moves on. Back in WWE, Reigns never spoke publicly about Damon. But some fans swear they saw a small signal weeks later. On an episode of SmackDown, Reigns stood in the ring flanked by Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, the newest bloodline enforcer. As Reigns talked about loyalty and sacrifice, he paused for a beat, looking straight into the camera, his eyes cold as ice. "Sometimes," Reigns said, "you make people an offer. And if they can't handle it, they get washed away." Some say it was a message to Damon. Others say it was just Reigns doing what he always does, reminding the world that the island of relevancy isn't for everyone. The lesson. Damon's story spread like wildfire in locker rooms across the country, a cautionary tale about the promises wrestling makes, and how quickly they can vanish. But for Damon, it's not the end. He's booked for 3 shows next month, his name bigger than ever. And somewhere out there, the man who could have been Roman Reigns' enforcer is still training like the call could come any day. Because in wrestling, the door never truly closes. And for Damon King, the enforcer who never was, the dream is still alive. Roman Reigns never officially made a major change, says WWE analyst. Roman Reigns changed WWE's landscape when he became the tribal chief and ruled the blue brand with an iron fist for years. Recently, analyst Sam Roberts expressed that he doesn't think the 40-year-old star officially made a major change. In 2024, Roman Reigns' reign as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion ended in Philadelphia at the showcase of the Immortals to Cody Rhodes. After the event, the 40-year-old SmackDown star's next appearance was at SummerSlam, where he started a feud with Solo Sikoa and the New Bloodline. In an appearance on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, Sam Roberts pointed out that Roman Reigns never officially became a babyface in the promotion. The analyst said fans automatically cheered for him, but his demeanor and gimmick didn't change when he returned to confront Solo Sikoa. "No, and I don't think he ever will officially turn babyface, because I don't think he'll ever abandon that character. But I remember saying on Not Sam, I was like Roman Reigns' babyface turn is the minute he loses the championship. Because the minute he loses the championship is the minute we all get a second to breathe," Roberts said. Contrary to popular belief, Roberts pointed out that Reigns never announced a turn, nor did he have a segment for the change. The analyst expressed that Roman remained true to his tribal chief moniker even after he lost the title. It's the minute we all get a second to reflect. It's the minute we all get a second to appreciate. And lo and behold, he loses the championship. This new bloodline starts to form. Next thing you know, Roman's fighting solo. Cody's teaming with Roman, and Roman is a babyface without ever changing, Roberts said. H/T, CVV. Roman Reigns could return to WWE and set up a feud with Seth Rollins, says Sam Roberts. Paul Heyman betrayed Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 41 when the Wise Men aligned with Seth Rollins to close the show on night 1. Later, the Visionary teamed up with Braun Breaker and decimated the original Tribal Chief and CM Punk on WWE Raw after the event in Las Vegas. Speaking on the Not Some Wrestling podcast, Sam Roberts pitched a major scenario where the 40-year-old WWE star could return at SummerSlam and set up a match with John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship. However, the match would act as an anchor, and Seth Rollins would cash in and win the title. Seth hits the heist of the century. It's the second time in a row he's done it to Roman Reigns. Now, we get John Cena vs. Seth moving forward, and we can hold off on Roman vs. Seth at WrestleMania, Roberts said. It'll be interesting to see when the original Tribal Chief returns to the weekly product. In the swirling world of WWE, words like change and evolution get tossed around more than steel chairs under the ring. Yet when it comes to the self-proclaimed Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, an interesting thought has recently ignited debate backstage and among fans alike. According to veteran WWE analyst Corey Price, known for his blunt takes and uncanny knack for stirring the pot, Roman Reigns never actually made a major change. Instead, he just rebranded what was always there. On a recent episode of The Bump, Price leaned into the debate, pushing back on the idea that Reigns' so-called transformation from the much-criticized babyface to the all-powerful bloodline leader was some shocking reinvention. Instead, Price argued, Roman simply gave the world permission to see the truth that had always lurked behind his stoic stare. People like to say Roman turned heel and changed the game. But if you've been paying attention, Price said, tapping his notes dramatically, he never changed. He never officially flipped the switch. He just said out loud what we all felt in our bones, he was always this Roman. He just stopped pretending otherwise. This assertion has left fans split down the middle. For years, crowds booed Reigns during his big dog phase, a phase WWE pushed relentlessly, scripting him as the noble, relentless hero destined to replace John Cena as the locker room's moral compass. But every time his music hit, the mixed reactions told a different story. Some fans cheered, sure, but many resented what felt like WWE's forced hero narrative. When Roman finally aligned himself with Paul Heyman in 2020, crowning himself the head of the table, it wasn't so much a shocking twist as a collective sigh of relief. Finally, the mask slipped. Reigns spoke about family dominance, loyalty, and the raw power that comes with blood ties. His arrogance wasn't hidden behind forced smiles or hollow catchphrases anymore, it was front and center. Price's take was simple, Reigns didn't turn heel. He simply admitted he was never a hero to begin with. Backstage, some insiders actually agree. A longtime WWE producer, who requested anonymity, added fuel to the fire, look, Roman's not the type to do anything halfway. He didn't wake up and say, hey, I think I'll flip my character upside down today. He just finally started talking and acting like the Roman we all know in the locker room, a leader who commands respect, expects loyalty, and doesn't have time for fools. What makes Price's perspective sting for some fans is that it calls into question the entire narrative WWE has built around Reigns' current run. His matches, his promos, his aura, they're all packaged as the payoff for a massive shift, a risk that finally paid off. But what if the real truth is that Roman Reigns' story is one of WWE's greatest non-changes, a star who only stopped fighting the inevitable? Think about it, Price continued during the show, leaning closer to the camera. When did Roman ever beg the crowd to like him? When did he break down crying, saying why don't they cheer me? Never. He kept showing up, doing his thing, main eventing WrestleMania after WrestleMania. He didn't need the fans to love him, he needed them to accept him. And now they do. Whether they boo or cheer, they acknowledge him. He won. The word acknowledge hangs heavy in this conversation. Roman's now iconic line, acknowledge me, has become his signature chant, both in kayfabe and reality. Fans who once booed him now hold up one finger in solidarity. Children wear tribal chief shirts instead of big dog vests. Merchandise flies off shelves, pay-per-view buy rates spike when his name's on the poster, and yet, nothing changed, at least not fundamentally. Roman didn't mold himself into someone new. He exposed the parts of himself WWE once tried to soften for mass consumption. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman, the wise man himself, remains tight-lipped on this fresh wave of speculation. When asked during a backstage interview if he agreed with Price's analysis, Heyman offered only a sly grin and his usual cryptic flourish. The tribal chief is exactly who he says he is. The rest of the world just needed time to catch up. Yet even this non-answer fuels the idea. If Heyman's words are to be believed, Roman's dominance wasn't manufactured in a creative meeting, it was destined. And maybe that's why it works so well. WWE has tried time and again to force stars into certain molds, some break under the pressure, others fade when the story doesn't stick. Roman Reigns didn't break. He didn't fade. He simply waited for the company, and the audience, to realize he was never a moldable hero in the first place. But not everyone buys it. Longtime fans argue that while Roman's attitude might feel the same, the man behind the scenes made real, calculated changes. He adjusted his in-ring style, slower, more methodical, dripping with psychological warfare. He revamped his promos, dropping the stilted, over-scripted monologues for sharp, personal shots that blur the lines between reality and fiction. And, perhaps most importantly, he found his voice, literally and figuratively, by shutting the ghost of Cena and forging his own path. One fan on X summed up the counter-argument: Price is missing the point. Roman Reigns did make a major change. He took control of his career. He demanded the freedom to be real. That's a change if I've ever seen one. And yet, Price's final point on the bump still lingers like an echo. You can call it a heel turn, a character reinvention, whatever you want. But Roman Reigns didn't reinvent himself, he revealed himself. And sometimes, revealing who you really are is the most powerful change of all. As SummerSlam looms and rumors swirl about the next chapter in the Bloodline saga, possible betrayals, returning cousins, and a certain Rock who may or may not show up, one thing remains undeniable: whether you believe Reigns changed or simply unmasked himself, he stands at the peak of the wrestling world, unchallenged, undeniable, and, perhaps most importantly, unchanged in all the ways that matter. So, next time the arena lights dim, the tribal drum hits, and the crowd roars "Acknowledge me" in unison, remember Corey Price's words. Maybe Roman Reigns never officially made a major change. Maybe he never had to. Because sometimes, the biggest secret in wrestling is that the real story was staring us in the face all along, waiting for us to acknowledge it.